wait is over.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the studios in the wrestling capital of the South, it's another terrific episode of the BENGEBUSTER Show. Please welcome your host, Tony Binge.
Hello, everyone. Long time no speak to. It has been quite a minute since I have done a podcast due to being sick and travel complications and booking complications and who knows what all else, man. But I know it's been a while, but I am excited and pumped up to be back this week. Chris, unfortunately, is not able to be on the show tonight. It is the holiday, and he is out with friends and family. So I made a phone call, and I got a step-in co-host for tonight, and I want to bring him on right now. He was on the podcast a few weeks ago. I bring him in right now as Mr. Lee Burnett, better known as Bobby Lee. What's going on, man?
Hey, brother, how you doing?
Man, I am doing good, man. Thank you for bailing me out this week on the podcast.
Oh man, there's no bailing you out. You're the superstar, and I'm here just to kind of bask in the light, brother.
Speaking of basking in the light, a few weeks ago, you made your in-ring managing debut with me there in Lenore, North Carolina. We were in the main event for the NAWA Championship title, and I was pretty close to winning, but that Donnie outsmarted us, and a little mishap there. I hit you with the cane instead of him. And then, of course, he hits me with it, and the referee didn't see that because he was trying to make sure that you were okay. And next thing I know, man, boom, lights out, and he gets the pin. But I think that night, we may have lost the battle, but we definitely didn't lose the war, because that war is going to keep on going until that NAWA title is in our camp.
It's going to be in our camp where it needs to be. It's rightful home with Bobby Lee and the superstar. It's where it needs to come to. And if the people around will just keep their mouths shut, that's one of the problems, is that you got all these people in the crowds who they keep running their mouths, they keep yelling. If they just keep their mouths shut and their eyes open, they're going to witness history. Donnie got lucky the other night. But, like you said, we're going to win the war. That was just a battle.
That's right. And, but man, taking some stuff back from that match, I remember, coming out there, looking at the people. And, of course, it was a tribute show for Donnie's old manager, Downtown Digger Brown, who tragically passed away, a few weeks ago prior to this big event. And I know Digger. I've known Digger for years, and he fought hard, and but unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But as a tribute that night, they the whole show was dedicated to him. And then there in the main event, Donnie brought Digger's famous cane to the ring. Now, I guess you always say karma has a way of finding its way back to you. There has been several matches over the years that me and one of my partners were involved in, and somehow or another, a few times I managed to snatch that cane from Digger and whack Donnie with it, and I thought, man, you and I had a good game plan. You tossed me the cane, and I thought while Donnie was trying to mess up your very expensive jacket, I would just, knock him in the back of the head like I always done. But I guess I've done it too much, and he knew. And so anyway, better luck next time.
Well, the bottom line was, and the only reason I even grabbed that cane was because Donnie was trying to cheat. And so, we wanted that match to be called right down the middle. We wanted it fair and square. You wanted to win the belt fair and square, like we all know you can do. Everybody there knew you could do it. But when Donnie started cheating, I felt like I had to even the score a little bit, and that's where I kind of intervened there. and unfortunately, we came out on the wrong end of the stick.
Well, he started cheating there at the beginning when he had his girlfriend try to give him a bolt, and of course I was able to snatch that from her and get a few shots in on him prior to. But any event, it is what it is, and the next time that we get a title shot, the outcome's gonna be different. That's for sure.
It's going to be different, and a new reign. New reign
is coming. But right now, we it's Thanksgiving weekend. It's Thanksgiving Day. Happy Thanksgiving to you and all the listeners at home. And of course, today later on in the show, our highlight of the show, we're going to be talking the Thanksgiving tradition, which was Starrcade for many years. And of course, we'll talk more about that later on. But before we get into that, as we were talking about our match with NAWA, NAWA actually has a big event coming up in just a couple of weeks on December the 10th. I'm super excited about this show, Lee, because it's actually a free show to the people. So they'll get to come out and witness some great wrestling action. It's going to be at a brewery in downtown Charlotte called Resident Culture. That show is going to be one for the ages. I know the NAWA has really put out a lot of time putting these shows together, and this one's going to be like none other. It's like I said, it's December the 10th. Bell time is 2 p.m. Because it's going to be an outdoor show. Resident Culture is having an ugly sweater contest that day with food trucks, and of course NAWA is providing the entertainment. So free admission. All you got to do is buy your booze and buy your food from the food truck. The NAWA is providing entertainment for free. But the bell time is 2 p.m. A lot of matches on this card. It's going to be one for the ages, that's for sure. I'm going to do a little rundown real quick of the matches that you will see there for during this time. So, of course, yours truly and my manager, Bobby Lee, we're going to be taking on Ted. Then we got Max Carnage taking on Jackson Cage. That should be a pretty decent match. Catman Dalton Dallas in action against Luke Fury, the up and comer young lion. I've been in the ring with Luke one time in a battle royal, and Lee, it was so funny. The young kid came up to me and he tried to sneak one in on me. So I had to pile drive him, and from what word I got from his trainer was I had pile drove him so hard that for about a week he had to unzip his pants just to brush his teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah, it was devastating. But then more matches. AJ Frost, the current NAWA television champion, teams up with Leatherface as they take on our arch enemy, Big Donnie and Big Nasty. Then from there, we're going to see Zay Vega taking on Jordan Holt, a newcomer to the NAWA. And then we're going to see the Allen brothers as they take on the tag team of Kindred. So a lot of good matches going to be on that show. Unfortunately, fellas, the only people that are going to be still the show is going to be me and yours truly and Bobby Lee. No, I'm just joking. Everybody's going to do a great job. And if you want to have
do a great job.
Yeah, and if you fans want to have great entertainment and a great time, bring your family. It's definitely a family-oriented event, even though it is at a brewery, but it's going to be fun. And I know, Bobby Lee, I know you be bringing your whole family. I'm bringing my family, and I got a lot of my friends and family also coming in. So I'm hoping to have at least 50 to 100 people just coming from my family. And I know you'll have probably about as many from yours. So it's going to be packed, fans. So you want to make sure you get there a little early.
It's going to be exciting because, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go ahead and tell you why they made it a free show. They want everybody to get the opportunity. They don't want money to stand in the way of people getting the opportunity to see Bobby Lee, the superstar, going after Ted. Now, that's going to be a great match. And like you said, every match on the card is going to be phenomenal. But they want everybody to get the opportunity to see history in the making. And so we're really excited about that. And, you mentioned something a while ago about our arch nemesis, Donnie and Big Nasty. Now, Big Nasty's been running his mouth a little bit. And so, that might come to pass that we have to take care of him also down the road, but we'll have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I'm sure that I can find me a tag team partner worthy to walk the aisle with us against Big Donnie and Big Nasty, the B&Bs, Burke County boy, whatever you want to call them. But I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, for sure. Now, getting to more exciting news. Tomorrow it runs Friday through Sunday. The 10th year of Wrestlecade coming to the Benton Convention Center downtown Winston-Salem. And fans, if you've never been to Wrestlecade, I highly recommend checking it out. You will definitely see stars of yesterday, today, tomorrow, and down the road. They're all going to be jam-packed there in the Benton Convention Center. Excuse me. Starts off Friday and runs all the way through Sunday, with Saturday being, in my opinion, the biggest day of Wrestlecade, because that's the fan fest, that's the podcast, that's everything under the moon, sun, and stars. And then the highlight of the evening, the big event, and you'll not only get to see throughout the day, come in and meet your favorite stars, but that night you'll get to see them in action. And probably, and what's neat is, like, you can see people that you didn't think you'd ever get to see in the ring again. They'll bring back some great childhood memories, but you'll also get to see the up and comers, the new breed, so to speak. So Wrestlecade gives a wrestling fan everything. Every wrestling fan from the old generation to the new generation, it puts it all in there in under one roof for 3 historical days. So, like I said, if you haven't bought your tickets yet, it's not too late. I think they have a few left, and also you come to Wrestlecade. Not only do you get to see all those stars, but you'll get to see the superstar. I'll be there. And, of course, I won't be in action, but I will be walking around, meeting and greeting and Nathan and whatever else that might happen that night or that weekend. But I'm excited because I'm going to be there all 3 days, and I'm bringing my son with me. It's going to be a father-son weekend, boys weekend. We're going to be staying in the big hotel across the street, and I'm excited for it. I can't wait. My son is pumped up. As a matter of fact, he told me this morning, "Dad, I can't wait to get there. I will have photo ops available. I just don't know how much I'm going to charge yet." And I said, "Well, son, let's just charge more than everybody else, and then you'll get all the money." And so he told me
that's right.
He told me that he would tell me how much he's going to charge for pictures when he gets there. So I put that on my Facebook page just a little bit ago. I said, "Hey, I'm the weekend with my son, and he's doing photo ops, and right now the price is yet to be determined." So so that was a shoot that was straight from his mouth, and he's 8 years old. So he just had a birthday last Saturday. So love him to death, and I'm excited to bring him. And I know the last time you were on our podcast, you and I kind of talked about how, wrestling has kind of like brought us together with our children, being able to have moments that mean more to us than the kids even know. And of course, this weekend's going to be just like that. I'm going to be hanging out with my son. If Mick Foley's there, I know he's going to remember my son, because they were hanging out in the locker room and my son was teaching me how to play Pokemon on the Nintendo. I'm sure he'll try to do karate with Ricky Morton, and of course, if Black Bart's there, they'll be singing Jingle Bells together, just like they did a few years ago. So,
Man, it sounds like a fun time.
Excited. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. So I'm looking forward to it. So, and like I said,
I tell you, 10 years they've been doing this, and it's probably it's one of, if not the biggest wrestling convention in the United States, and they bring in people. And no wonder they do it in Winston-Salem. Just a stone's throw from Charlotte. The mecca of wrestling for so many years. This convention is, like you said, family fun for 3 straight days. You're going to meet some of the biggest stars that you've ever seen. I'm excited that Kane's going to be there. Eric Bischoff is one of my favorite people, and it's going to be good to see Eric down there. And maybe Eric will give me some tips on how to deal with this Big Donnie situation. But you know what? In the end, it's going to be a lot of fun. And those who are on the fence about going, I highly recommend it. You can't get a better, like you said, family enjoyment weekend than going to Wrestlecade.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to be a great fun time, and I definitely can't wait to get there Friday. I'm coming by myself Friday. My son says he wants to hang out with his mother on Friday, but Saturday and Sunday he'll and I'll be there rocking the place, and I'm excited for that. So it's going to be a good time.
Sweet.
So make sure you get your tickets, fans. If you see me walking around, I won't be hard to notice. There'll only be 2 people at Wrestlecade wearing the Terry Funk boots, and that's going to be me and number 1 George South. So if everybody knows George South, so he'll have on his teeny. The boots are called Teeny Llamas, but me and George call them Terry Funk boots. So right. George will have on his Terry Funk boots, and I will have on mine. So if you see the other guy, that's not George South. That's me. That's your host. That's your podcast. That's the number 1 superstar, Saturday Night Superstar. And I'll be sporting my Teeny Llamas. And if anybody wants to take a picture, come up and tell me how much you love my podcast. Whatever you want to do, slide me $50 for Christmas. I don't care. But I'm just joking. But I am excited about meeting people. I know the last time I was there, I had a booth. This year I decided to instead of have a booth and not get to see anybody, I wanted to walk around. So I'm going to be there walking around, and I'll be meeting people hopefully. So if you see me, say hi. If not, as Cornette says, well, I can't say that. But anyway, getting to the podcast now. A lot of
sure.
But before we get into the podcast though, a lot of crazy things happening in the wrestling world as of late. MJF, who just a few months ago called his boss a mark on television, now he is back in AEW, and he's the AEW heavyweight champion of the world. Did you get a chance to see that?
I did, and I think it's a little early for that. I think he definitely has all the tools, everything he needs to be champion and to carry that company and to be the face of the company. I think it's a little early. I think they put it on him a lot quicker than they were going to due to the deal with CM Punk, and maybe they had to do that. But I feel like it's a good thing. He is a natural heel.
Oh man,
and he's one of the best in the business. He's got it down pat. And this guy, you talk about the future of wrestling. This guy's the future. He's the present and the future of wrestling.
Yeah, I really think that he is going to be a major superstar. I mean, he already is, but even bigger than what he is now. I like him. I like his gimmick. I like the way he talks. He reminds me a lot of myself. No, I'm just joking. But no, he really is a great performer. He's a great promo. I think he's definitely the guy that's going to make AEW a lot of money.
I think so, and I think that he held out in his contract for quite a while. He was off TV for quite a bit, and suddenly he's back, and that means he's reached an agreement. Hopefully, with that agreement, he has creative control. of his character. And I think that if that is the case, then it's going to be just onward and upward for him, because he has a mind for the business. You can tell if you watch interviews with him, if you read interviews with him, just the way he performs, he has a mind for the business like nobody else there.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I think the same thing, and I think that he's going to go a long ways. Not just AEW. I think at some point in time we will see him on WWE. But I think the only way that will happen is if he still has creative control over his character, because we know once he gets up there, it might get watered down a little bit. I like how he is in AEW right now. He's fist and fire, and his promos are red hot and they're full of heat, and so I love it. I love his character, so I'm excited to see where how far he goes.
Yeah, and you mentioned going to WWE. I think that'd be a mistake for him, especially at this moment. When he was away from TV, away from the company for a little bit, there was a lot of speculation. And when he came back, it was kind of a relief for me, because I love seeing him being the big fish in this fairly small pond. If going to WWE, he's going to be a medium-sized fish in the ocean. And so, and eventually working his way up to main event status. But I don't think he comes in as main event going to WWE.
Yeah, I think you're right, and so who knows? I'm like I said, I'm excited to that he won the title, and I'm excited to see who the next person is that he's gonna be working with, and
right, and I
how
hope.
Good.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
I hope it's not Kenny Omega. Kenny and the Elite just came back.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's funny that I mentioned CM Punk a while ago, because Kenny said, just let everybody come back and let's work it into an angle.
Yeah.
And I think he said that knowing good and well they're not going to bring CM Punk back.
Right.
But Kenny, I'm not the biggest fan of Kenny, but I hope they don't put him in a program, or he put himself in a program with MJF. I think that would be a mistake. He needs to stay away from the title for a little bit and let MJF show what he can do. MJF may just raise that company in stature to where they're a little bit more of a threat to the WWE.
Yeah, I think you're right 100% on there. So anyway, I'm curious to see where it goes and who the next person is he works with. I know whoever it's going to be. It's almost like whenever he and Moxley worked for the title, it was hard to tell who the heel was. It was. A lot of people were talking that they're looking to turn MJF babyface. I think that would be a big mistake as well, because he gets white hot heat as a heel. So and if they're trying to go old school style, what draws and what draws money is you put the belt on your hottest heel, and you feed him baby faces, and then you get that one baby face that's going to chase him enough to where the people are going to buy the ticket to see it. A lot of people are not going to go buy a ticket if the baby face has got the belt. They want the baby face to get the belt, so they're going to be paying the money to come there and see it. I think that's just a formula that has always worked in the pro wrestling business, and I think it always will.
I tell you, I think that a good potential feud for MJF down the road, because it just happened last year, is a Wardlow feud. I don't think they did the Wardlow feud justice. I think that they rushed it, but man, the crowd was ready to see Wardlow tear him apart. And if you remember that little feud they had, MJF working the mic, working the program, he was a genius, and the crowd was ready for that match. And so I think if they had let him have a longer feud, build Wardlow up a little bit more than where he is, and proving him as an ultimate threat. Of course, physically looks it, but and let him be that baby face that people want to see tear MJF apart.
Yes, I agree. I think that would definitely be a great match, and so we're we're gonna hang out and watch and see what happens. Now
let's watch and see.
We're gonna get to the main event of the Binge Buster show.
Yep.
I apologize. Excuse me. I apologize. I'm eating ice to keep from coughing because I'm still not feeling 100%. So I apologize for that. But now let's get into.
Well, you sound great.
Yeah, well, better now. Listen, last week I wanted to do a podcast, and it was a whisper. I mean, I was whispering. It was just like nothing was coming out. I was just like, man, can't even talk. And then at one time I was talking like this, and I scared my wife.
I said, "Hey, I can't talk anymore."
And she was like, "What the?" No, just joking. But anyway, I am feeling better, and so I'm excited to actually have my voice back and be able to do this podcast. I enjoy doing it, and just haven't been able to do one in the last few weeks because of being sick and bookings and everything else. But I'm hoping to get it back to where I can do a podcast each and every week, because I know a lot of my listeners, even some of the boys, enjoy the show, because I've had a couple message me, "Hey man, I'm waiting to hear your podcast. Have you retired?" I'm like, "No, just been sick, man. I'll get another one out there soon." So here we are, Thanksgiving Day, and I thought, what better way to bring the podcast back and talk about a Thanksgiving tradition of Jim Crockett Promotions, Starrcade. And I thought as we talk about Starrcade being a Thanksgiving tradition, 1986, the night of the Skywalkers, was sadly the last Starrcade to be held in Greensboro, which was the home of Starrcade. As we know, the following year, 87, they took it out of Greensboro and took it to Chicago. And of course, at that point, I think Crockett lost a lot of their diehard fans because they felt like they were being ripped off of not having their big event held in the Greensboro Coliseum. But here we are, the last year of it being in Greensboro, 1986, September the 27th. Now, I always say Greensboro, but Starrcade, a lot of people may not know this, but Starrcade was actually held in two different towns. It was held in Greensboro and Atlanta. So we had people buying tickets to see it in both towns, and of course, it was on closed circuit throughout the Mid-Atlantic territory. But Starrcade 86, between the two buildings of Greensboro and Omni, drew an attendance of 30,000 people. So 30,000, I know that as today's standards, that don't sound like a lot of people, but in 1986, that was a huge house. And I remember, I did go to Starrcade 86 in Greensboro, but I remember, on Monday morning, seeing the news and hearing how they talked about how wrestling pretty much shut down Interstate 85 going to Greensboro.
Right.
Everybody was trying to get there,
Yes.
And it also shut down High Point Road, which is the major road in Greensboro taking you to the Coliseum. So it was a big deal back in the 80s. And so I thought tonight we will definitely break down the matches and talk a little bit of what could have been at Starrcade 86. Now, as we start this off, just keep in mind that Starrcade 86 was the fourth annual professional wrestling closed circuit television event. This was prior to having pay-per-views. It was produced by Jim Crockett Promotions and under the National Wrestling Alliance banner. And the main event was NWA Heavyweight Champion Nature Boy Ric Flair in a title versus title match against Nikita Koloff, who was currently the United States Heavyweight Champion. Now, we'll talk more about that match later on in the card, but It was a great match. And what was so cool about the Starrcade being in two different locations, they had this big screen above the ring. So what would happen is you'd be in Greensboro watching the match live. As soon as that match would be over, excuse me, the closed circuit TV would turn on, and you'd look up, and now you're watching a match from Atlanta, and then vice versa. You're in Atlanta, you watch that match, it goes off, it goes back to Greensboro. So you're going back and forth. But I feel like Greensboro had the better matches, even though the Omni had Ric Flair and Nikita for the world title, and the Skywalkers match, the Road Warriors against the Midnight Express on the scaffold. But I felt like here in Greensboro, we had some of the better matches. The hotter feuds that were going on at the time. We got the Rockland Express against the Andersons. We got Dusty versus Tully. We got Jimmy Valiant versus Paul Jones. So we had, in my opinion, we had the better card. Even though they had,
I agree.
They had the Skywalker and they had Ric Flair, but and I'm not taking nothing away from those matches. Those matches were great, especially the Skywalker, because that's something that a lot of people have never seen before. But I enjoyed that. I still think that we got the better matches there in Greensboro. Now, I think
so too.
What did like when you go back and watch this event? What is the one match on this card that really stuck out in your mind besides the Skywalker match?
Well, first off, I have to say that as far as Jim Crockett Promotions and the wrestling events they did, Starrcade '86 is in my top 5 of all time. Actually, probably top 5 pay-per-views in general across the board. When I want to go back and watch a pay-per-view, this is probably the one I'm putting on. There's just something about this because it's filmed in that old Jim Crockett Promotions traditional style, and it's not oversaturated like wrestling got later on. But man, if I had to choose the rock and roll, versus the Andersons, was hot. The crowd is so into that. I like it so many of them for different reasons. I love the Skywalkers, of course. And thinking about, was it Hawk that had a broken leg that night?
Yes, Hawk had broke his leg, his femur. He had broke it just a few days earlier when they were in Japan. He just taped it up and came to the show, and most people didn't even know it was broken.
Yeah, so I didn't know that for months afterward. I think I finally heard it somewhere, and I didn't believe it. But just the things that went into it, and the stories behind the match is why Nikita was the challenger that night. If I had to choose a favorite match, it'd probably be the rock and roll match.
Yeah, that was a good one. My match that I would choose was Dusty versus Tully Blanchard, because that match was a first blood match, and during that time, everybody was like, "Well, golly, who's gonna bleed first?" Because if you had watched the matches between Dusty and Tully, weeks prior, which I did, my dad would bring me to the Greensboro Coliseum every time they were there, from like '84 up until 89 when they stopped running there. But I can remember going there and seeing Dusty versus Tully, and the first 2 minutes of the match, they both are bleeding like stuck pigs. So I was curious to see how this match was going to go. But what really got me on this match and makes me say I think this is the best match on the card was the storytelling that they did in that. So the beginning of the match, JJ gets in Dusty's face. He's talking junk to Dusty. Dusty pops him with the bionic elbow, and boom, JJ's busted wide up. He's bleeding everywhere. So now, as a wrestling fan, you're thinking, oh man, so all Dusty's got to do is get the elbow on Tully. Boom, he's bleeding. Dusty wins, right? And the psychology that they used there was awesome. So now you're thinking, oh well, Dusty's definitely going to win this one because he just busted open JJ.
It's all the psychology, man.
Yeah,
the psychology and the believability that his elbow was going to bring blood. Yeah.
But what I like the best about it was the fact that the ref takes the bump. Dusty, hits Tully with the elbow, splits him open. But then referee goes down. Dusty goes to get the referee up. JJ gives Tully a roll of coins. Tully hits Dusty. Dusty goes down right in front of the referee. Excuse me. And then he comes back. JJ hits the ring with Tully, puts the Vaseline on his face to seal up the cut. So now, and wipes the blood away. So, perfect. He's not bleeding. Dusty's bleeding. Okay, well, whatever. Dusty loses the title. I really like that. I really like that idea of how they were so smart enough to use the Vaseline to seal the cut. And, of course, Johnny Weaver and Bob Caudle really put that match over. So I feel like that match, to me, was the best match at Starrcade. But I have to agree with you. The match between the Rock and Roll and the Andersons was right up there. It was just as good. And so was the match, even though a lot of people talk junk about it. But I think the match between Jimmy Valiant and Paul Jones, their final blow off, Jimmy Valiant finally gets his revenge, and he gets Paul Jones's hair.
The history of those two, and the people who knew that history, it's hard to beat that match as for storytelling and believability, because those two had an incredible history and historic run up to that point.
Yeah, and do you know? You probably already know this, but Jimmy Valiant and Paul Jones have the longest running feud in Jim Crockett Promotions. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I did not.
So,
wow.
So what would happen? Flair and Dusty would have a little feud. Then Flair would go to somebody else, and then Rock Express and the Midnight Express would have a little feud. But then they'd go to somebody else. But Jimmy Valiant and Paul Jones stayed right together the whole time. Now, even though Jimmy Valiant would be wrestling somebody like Shaska Watley or Baron Von Raschke or T.J. Khan or the Assassins, but Paul Jones was still involved. So it was a feud, and Jimmy Valiant told me that their feud lasted 5 years, and it's the longest running feud in the history of Jim Crockett Promotions. So I think that right there in itself says a lot, and I know a lot of guys. They say things about, but let me tell you, Jimmy Valiant and Paul Jones stole it. They would steal the show real quick. Their interviews would be great, and of course they would do the outlandish stuff like Jimmy Valiant getting his beard shaved first, then he got his head shaved, then he had to lose town. So they always had those little layers in there to make people think, well, it's over, and then boom, he's right back. So I enjoy watching those too.
Oh, that's great. That was a really, really good match, and it reminds me, now thinking about this pay-per-view again, the street fight. Big Bubba Rogers. Let's just talk about Big Bubba. He had a believability about him during this time that he was unstoppable.
Oh, yeah. Dusty broke a chair over his head, and he stood still and looked at him.
The man stood still. And, he went up against the Hands of Stone, Ron Garvin. And they had built Ron up as, we talked about earlier with MJF, building somebody up to actually take this person down. Mm-hmm. They had built Ron up to where I believed when I first saw this, hey, this is the guy. This is the guy. Hands of Stone. I love that name.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But yeah, see, I like that match too. And Jim Cornette, man, when I think of heel managers, they don't get any better than Jim Cornette.
No, without a doubt. But unfortunately, this night of Starrcade was kind of a dreadful night for our friend Cornette. The story goes that when they talked about the scaffold match, that Cornette would go to the scaffold, and then he would drop, and Bubba would catch him. Now,
right.
I don't know who thought Bubba was going to catch this man, 250-pound man falling 3 stories, and you're going to catch him, and you're wearing sunglasses, and you're looking up under a bunch of lights. Okay, everything under there screamed doom, but back in those days, those guys were making money. It's okay, yeah, no worries, let's do it, But didn't happen. Cornette blew out his knee, and but had the best bump on the whole show. So I don't know. So he did a good job.
He absolutely had the best bump, and the fact that it's been famously said. Bubba said, "I lost you in the lights. I lost you in the lights."
Yeah.
And who was it? I think it was Animal and Hawk. I think it was Animal. Joe said one time that he saw that happen, and he was up on top of the scaffold just laughing like crazy.
Yeah, I heard that interview, and because no way, I don't care who you are, you're falling, 3 stories, you're falling fast. You're not falling enough to where somebody's going to catch you,
right?
Much less, break your fall. So that didn't happen. So, any event, but
yeah, another great match. And the thing about the Skywalker match, they did it this year, and then they did it the next year. And there's only so much you can do on a scaffold.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't go for more of those on any. I think there were more, but not on any major pay-per-views. I gotta admit, man, it's one of those matches that the idea of it sometimes is a lot better than the actual match itself.
Yeah. And I think the last time they had a scaffold match on pay-per-view was probably around 91, 92, and it was Beautiful Bobby and PN News versus Steve Austin and Terry Taylor.
Wow.
And
so I missed that one.
Yeah, you did, yeah, it's a good thing you did, because it really wasn't. I think what they should have done, they should have had the scaffold match with Midnight and Road Warriors, and then call it a day on that. I remember in 1988 going to the Great American Bash, and they gave you everything trying to get people in the door. You got War Games, a scaffold match, and then they brought in the Freebirds, and man, it was crazy, all the stuff that they pulled out for 1988. But I'm sure we have other podcasts down the road. We'll talk about that one, but
sure. And those 80s pay-per-views, man, those 80s pay-per-views, they pulled out all the stops, and it was great watching, man. It really was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was. But just one of those things, man, where they always had, something going on there.
Sure.
Well, let's get into a few of these matches.
Sure.
So first one, as we kind of touched on, here's the match. Excuse me, guys. My cough is coming back. But Wahoo McDaniel, who's somebody we don't talk about too much, but this guy was a first class, tough ass, badass dude, taking on Ravishing Rick Rude in a Indian strap match. This match goes 9 minutes and 5 seconds with Wahoo winning. What do you remember most about this match?
I remember this one. It looked brutal to me. I think both of them, both really good workers. But I just remember it looking brutal to me. I'm not sure of any other way to say it, really. Yeah. They didn't pull any punches. It showed how tough Wahoo was. And for people who had kind of forgotten because Wahoo was an older star at this point. It showed how tough he was.
Yeah, that it did. Wahoo was very tough. Matter of fact, before Wahoo passed away, I met Wahoo, and he was brutally honest, which I appreciated. But he definitely was a man's man. I know in Ric Flair's book, Flair's talking about a match he had with Wahoo, and Flair had accidentally took his blade and actually cut his eyelid, and he was trying to tell Wahoo, "Hey, we got to take this match. We got to go home. I've cut myself." And Wahoo told Flair, he said, "Man, we're not in this match." He goes, I had more stitches in my foreskin." So, so
Well, I'll tell you, and this match showed it. I mean, if people have not seen this match, we talk about the great matches on this card. This was another good match. Up in the top 2 or 3, I don't think so, in my opinion. But it's still I think it's a solid match, and it showed what Rick Rude would become a little later on.
Oh yeah, very much so. And of course, one thing I miss about these days, back in those days, you didn't have all this copyright infringement crap. So these guys would come to the ring, listen to playing everyday music, not just the customized music that they had later on. But I remember, I thought Rick Rude had the coolest entry song. He had Sade's Smooth Operator, but he had this girl in the background, and she would say, "Oh, Ricky, you're simply ravishing. Where did you come from?" And then it would cut right into "No Need to Ask. He's a smooth operator." I thought that was really cool how they did that. But back in those days, I liked the fact that the wrestlers had they played your everyday music. As a matter of fact, in those days they introduced me to a lot. And I know I done my podcast a few years ago with Baby Doll, the Perfect 10, which, by the way, she'll be in Wrestlecade this Saturday. So go out and say hey to her and tell her that Tony Ben sent you there. But her and her husband, good friends of mine, and but I told her, I said, "Baby Doll, I gotta tell you this. I've been wanting to tell you this forever. But thank you for introducing me to Motley Crue, because they become my favorite band." Because when she first came into Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, she was still wearing the punk rock gimmick that she wore while she was in Texas with Gina Hernandez. But it shows this video of her getting off the airplane in Charlotte, meeting up with Tully, and they're playing Motley Crue's "Looks That Kill." And that's the first time I heard that song, and I was like, "Oh man, this song sounds cool. I gotta find out who sings this song." And then when I found out, it was a band called Motley Crue. And then that's how I got my introduction to Motley Crue, was because of Baby Doll. So when I've had her on my podcast about 3 years ago, I got a chance to thank her, and she told me that originally when they made that video, they were going to have her come out to the song from Bob Seger called "The Strut," and but she's like, "Yeah, that's okay, but what about this one? Let's play this one." And Dusty liked it. "Oh yeah, that sounds even better." So that's how that they got the Motley Crue "Looks to Kill" video on for her. Anyway, great times with her, and but getting back to these to Starrcade '86, a lot of great matches was on this card. Even Tim Horner and Nelson Royal were opening match against Rocky and Don Cornudle right there in Greensboro. And then of course Brad Armstrong goes a 15-minute draw with Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, Garvin had just came into the territory, so he hadn't really got a good program yet. But man, getting to work Brad Armstrong, that's like working a main event.
Oh yeah, man. And I'll tell you another one. Sam Houston. Sam Houston, for those who don't know, Sam was a great wrestler.
Oh yes,
and he was so good, and he had a great match here. The Central States title, I believe, against Bill Dundee. And this, again, one of the best matches on the card. I don't know, but it's super solid. He was just an all-around great wrestler, and never got the recognition I think that he deserved.
No, I agree with you. He really didn't. But I did enjoy that match. And matter of fact, in that match, I do believe that superstar Bill Dundee is wearing a pair of teeny llamas. I'm pretty sure he was. So
It probably is.
So
yeah.
my boots are pretty popular now. But yeah, so that was a good deal. But now getting to our main event of this
Right.
Of the Starrcade 86, Ric Flair against Nikita Koloff. Now, two important things I want you fans to take back from this match. Number one, this match wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be Ric Flair versus Magnum TA. But of course, we know now, a couple months prior to Starrcade, Magnum was involved in a terrible car accident right here in Charlotte, and ended his career. And so they had to put somebody else in there, and so they turned Nikita Koloff babyface, and a lot of people were like, "What? Like what? How's this happening?" But it worked, and Nikita got over and was just as popular as Magnum, and he and Dusty filled a tag team called the Superpowers, and they took off. But that's the first thing. The second thing that a lot of people probably don't know about this match, Nikita Koloff, Ric Flair, but if you go back and watch this match, there is a point in the match where Ric Flair puts Nikita in a standing vertical suplex, and when Flair drops him and they take the bump, Nikita Koloff's sickle comes out and it bounces all around, and Tommy Young tucks it back into his tights. And they do not edit that off of the match. So if you go back and watch it, I don't care if you watch it on the network or on the VCR tape, you will see Nikita's sickle bouncing around when he takes that bump from the suplex.
And it's funny. I was able to talk to Nikita. I interviewed him a couple of years ago, and we were talking about '86, and he said he'd never lived that down.
I'm sure. What I liked was when Flair first picks him up, Tommy Young looks up and sees the sickle hanging, and he says, "Jesus, Rick." And I'm thinking, why is he saying Rick? That ain't Rick's dick. That's Nikita. But I thought that was funny. But the cool thing was how Tommy Young just reaches down, slides it back into his tights like no big deal,
Well, Tommy Young was the consummate professional.
He really was.
And this moment and all the other moments, one of the greatest referees to ever live, who which tragically was his in-ring career cut short, freak accident. But one of the best, in my opinion, referees to ever live, and his pairing up with this match was this match is gold. I really, really like this match. And Nikita was still pretty green at this point, and had not had a lot of in-ring experience, as far as if you were to compare him with the likes of Ric Flair. And so the fact that he's even in this match is amazing. And the fact that Rick, and you can watch it, you can watch Rick lead him through this match. And I thought it was so well done. I would have personally, my only problem with the match is I would have liked to have a finish that I'd like to see a clean finish. I understand why they did what they did. For a storyline and for maybe a booking standpoint, but I would have loved to have seen a clean finish on this.
Yeah, I would too. But I think on this one, the reason why we didn't see that is because it was they billed it as a title versus title, so they had to go a double DQ so nobody lost their title.
Right.
So I think that's the reason why they did that. I wish that they would have just made it a this match is just for the world title, and then just had Flair, cheat and pin him. Because if you go back and look at all the Starrcades, other than 83, Flair pins Harley Race.
Right.
But after that, there never was a pinfall at Starrcade for the world title. It was always a disqualification, or because you got Starrcade 84, Flair and Dusty, that ends up being a disqualification. Starrcade 85, Flair and Dusty. Dusty wins the title. At least we think he did until Monday or until the next week when you watch wrestling and find out that no, he was disqualified. Then 86, we got another DQ. So, so unfortunately, I think bad booking, but I would like to have seen Flair get another pin at least on Nikita at Starrcade, but also see where they were coming from, because at the time Nikita was billed as a monster and they want to keep him that way. So I see that from both vantage points.
Right, but this match in particular, it is a really good example of watching Rick lead somebody through a match. And I remember, as I said, I talked to Nikita about it. Nikita said that he was so nervous going into this match, and he was very, very thankful to be in there with somebody the caliber of Rick, who was able to walk him through it. Newly acquired babyface status, and I got to be honest, when the babyface thing first happened, I didn't think it was going to work. How can you be the monster heel and then you feel bad and all of a sudden you're the babyface? And but it took off and people really bought into it. And I jumped on that bandwagon too, man. I got to admit, I was right there with him. And, I loved it. And I thought it was a great match in a lot of different aspects, even though I'm a little, I would say bitter, but I would like to see a clean finish. Although, like I said, I did understand why they did it.
Yeah, but I still enjoyed this Starrcade. Like I said, I want to talk about it tonight just because it was the last one that they did in the Carolinas before they moved it to Chicago. But I think my favorite Starrcade to sit down and watch was 85, because it seemed like all those matches were bloody, gory matches. They were big feuds, but getting back to Starrcade 85, I know that that earlier in the night you were talking about one of the matches here at Starrcade 86 seeming so real, but I think the match that really, at all the Starrcades, that made me as a kid go, oh my God, was Abdullah.
Let me guess.
Okay.
Oh, no, I heard you say Abdullah. Okay, go ahead.
So Abdullah and the Raging Bull in their Mexican death match, when Abdullah goes to the ring announcer's table, gets the hammer that they use to ring the bell, and hits the Bull in the head with his hammer, and Bull cuts himself at least 1 million times before he, and I'm just like,
that's
oh
great
my
stuff, man.
God,
Great stuff.
It was so real to me as a kid, and so many other secrets that I picked up at Starrcade 85. But Starrcade 86 was definitely one of the better shows. Or events rather. I'm glad that's the one they chose to be the last one in the Carolinas, if that's what they had to do, because you can't beat Rock and Roll versus the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. What a tremendous match that was. Dusty versus Tully, and of course Jimmy Valiant and Paul Jones. So all in all, Starrcade 86, I believe, was a stellar event. They had some really good matches and great feuds, and things kept running. And I know the Nikita versus Flair angle would surpass Starrcade 86 and go all the way up until at least February, March, before finally, I think it was in April of that year when they finally put the belt on Ron Garvin. So all in all, 86 was definitely a great Starrcade. As a matter of fact, when we get done recording this podcast, I'll probably go watch it before I go to bed. So I'm excited about that. But anyway, a great event here at Starrcade. And I wish I had a time machine where I could go back and relive these moments with these wrestlers, because they really laid the foundation for me. As I got older and got into the business, I'm like, well, I got to do that because they did it like this, and I got to do it like this because they did it like that. And they helped build a foundation for me. And when I'm on a show and some fan says, "Man, I like what you did. That was old school," then I have to go back and think, the Midnight Express, Rock'n'Roll Express, Dusty, Nikita, Ron, Magnum, all these guys, because they laid that foundation from 1985 to like 1987. And I remember during those years, I was in middle school, and I said, "Man, if I ever get to be a wrestler, I'm gonna be the same way." And thank goodness that I got to do that, and I still do that. So,
it really is
I'm
a
proud.
cool thing. Yeah, and I love the way that everybody that you watched as a kid, all the people that you enjoyed watching as a kid up through your teenage years. Same way with me. It's like they left little pieces, almost like a puzzle, and you put all those puzzle pieces together, and you've got the person that goes out and does what we do now, what we're going to do on the 10th. When we go out there at the brewery in Charlotte, we're taking all those pieces that we learned from those guys so long ago, and now we've made it into what we are now. And that's what people are going to see when we go out there on the 10th and beyond.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Like, I want people to go away and go, okay, those guys, but this guy right here, man, he's real. He's real, and and make them guess it, and
Sure.
And I strive for that every day, or not every day, but every day I get in the ring, I try to. And it's not that I'm trying to be better than everybody else. I'm very prideful in my work, so I want to really make people go, that last match, but this match right here, like, this guy's he's serious,
Yep, absolutely.
And that's the best way to be.
Absolutely.
Well, what a great show this week, man. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed going back down memory lane and talking Starrcade 86. I know next week.
I appreciate it.
I know next week I'm not sure what our topic's going to be. Probably going to be a breakdown, rundown review of Wrestlecade. So I'll be there for 3 days in a row, and hopefully I might be able to talk a few talent into coming on the show. Maybe not coming on the show, at least give our show a shout out. So stay tuned for that, fans, for next week. But today I want everybody to. I appreciate you tuning in, but enjoy your turkey, enjoy your dinner and time and fellowship with your family and friends, and then load them all up in the car tomorrow and bring them to Wrestlecade in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, for a weekend of fun family entertainment.
That's right. And then on the 10th of December, we want to see everybody down at the brewery in Charlotte, and they can find all that information. Where can they find all that?
Well, Wrestlecade is going to be Wrestlecade.com. That's Wrestlecade.com. You can go on there and purchase your tickets, and also see the schedule for all the events happening Wrestlecade weekend. But for the NAWA, you just go to their Facebook page, the NAWA, and like their page, and then you can pull up and see all their upcoming events. But also, once you join the NAWA Facebook page, every Saturday there is a new video release of their latest matches or latest shows, and you can watch that on YouTube. So they have a YouTube channel. So, but they always link that to on their Facebook page. So in order to get that quickly, go on there and like their Facebook page. That's the NAWA right there on Facebook. And
awesome.
And like their page, and then, like I said, in a couple weeks you'll be able to see mine and Bobby Lee's big match against Big Donnie and how that went down. And you guys watch it and see if we wasn't cheated out of that. I think you'll agree with us. Well,
I
Bobby,
think they will.
Well, Bobby, I appreciate man coming on the show. It was a great hour we spent reminiscing of the old days. Man, I hope you and your family have a great Turkey Day.
You too, brother. I hope you and your son have an awesome time at Wrestlecade. Have a great Thanksgiving. And just so everybody knows, I'm thankful for you and your podcast and what you bring back to the people here, for the opportunities that you've given me. And we are going to take this thing onward and upward. And I'm super excited for people to see Superstar and Bobby Lee and what's going to happen in 2023.
Yeah, I am too. It's going to be exciting. So fans, for Bobby Lee, I am the Saturday Night Superstar, terrific Tony Binge. For Chris Plano, I will see you next week here on the Binge Buster Show.
Thank you for listening to the Binge Buster Show. Make sure you like us on Facebook and download us on your favorite podcast platform.